Hi there, Andre from Peak Motorcycles here. In this video I am going to be showing you how to fit these Outback Motortek Pannier Frames to the Honda CRF300. I'm going to be fitting them to my Honda CRF300 Rally, but they would also fit the Honda CRF300L in exactly the same way. So this is the second of two videos I've done about these. The other video I actually compare these standard frames with the Outback Motortek X frames, which have an extra plate which goes in the middle of the frame. So if you want to attach a rotor packs or a toolbox to the inside, then you can do that. I decided to go for the standard frames for my bike simply because I've got my Enduristan Monsoon Evo Panniers, which do seem to fit really well around the bars on this particular frame. If I need to carry anything extra, I'd probably put it in there. Also, I have a Rally, so I've got the big 12-point something fuel tank. So far I've never needed to look for rotor packs for anything. Now maybe at some point in the future I'll be cursing the fact that I went for these ones instead of the others. But I think for the few occasions where I do need that additional range, I'd probably find another solution. And these frames are lighter. I wasn't entirely sure about putting bigger panniers on the bike, simply because it's a lightweight adventure bike or I suppose a medium weight trail bike. I already have some Enduristan Blizzard saddlebags which don't need a rack, they just go over the seat, they attach in a couple of places, and those are great, but they're only 24 litres in total. I have the large size, and even the extra larges I think are only 34 litres, so two 17-litre panniers. I'm doing a few events next year where I need to be able to carry more camping stuff, which I won't have on the bike when I get there, so panniers seem to be a logical option. So to be able to fit them, you do need these frames. I think what is nice about them is they do distribute the weight. So first of all, it's through the same mounting points that a rack would use. The second thing is that it's got some additional mounting points on where the pillion pegs would go. And lastly, it's got this cross brace so that even, it helps when if the bike is moving, that it's not pushing one way or the other, or at least there is that sort of frame that's built from, it's this piece at the back here which goes between those two plates on the frames. Now, I didn't get any instructions with it. I know there are instructions on the website, but actually, after unpacking the bag of screws, it is really straightforward. So this is the frame that goes on the left-hand side of the bike. I can tell that because it's slightly shallower. The one for the right-hand side of the bike, which is this one here, needs to be deeper because the exhaust has to come into this space. So these bars here are longer than they are here. So the screws that came with it, I think these are fairly clear that these are going to be the spacers that go into the sort of seat bolts and the rack bolts. There's this one that goes along the back. Again, it's got a shorter side for the side that doesn't stick out as far. It's got a longer side for the exhaust, and then there's this shape where the wheel would go. And then at the front end, there are these two places that mount onto the pillion peg mounts. And again, these came with a couple of bolts. So I think most of that really is quite straightforward as to how that fits. Put the table away, I'll get my bike out, I'll go through the fitting of this, shouldn't take more than a couple of minutes, and then I will fit my panniers to it. Now, as you can see, I've lifted my CRF300 Rally up in the air, and there's a couple of reasons for this. In order to fit the panniers, you do have to remove the toolbox, and you also need to remove the pillion pegs. So you can't carry a pillion if you've got the pannier frames on the bike. Now, for some people that might be annoying, and maybe one of the reasons why you want to have more luggage capacity is so that you can carry a pillion and you've got space for all their stuff. But to be honest, I think the weight limit for the bike is something like 150 kilos. Now, maybe if the two of you are really small and you're not taking much luggage, maybe you can still stay under that. But I think for most people, if you're taking this much luggage on a bike like this and you're wearing your riding gear, I think most people are going to be beyond the limit of what Honda recommend for the bike anyway. So Outback Motortek did say you have to take the toolbox off, and I was slightly curious because I think when I put that over the top of there, especially when it's on the spacers, I think it would actually clear the toolbox. I think the problem is that once these pannier frames are on, you can't open it anymore. So even if it's on and you've got anything important in there, you're not going to be unbolting your panniers at the side of a trail to get to anything. So one of the reasons why I'm using my ABBA stand is because I need to take the toolbox off, I need to take the pillion pegs off, which means I need to take off these side panels, and it's actually quite a big, not quite a big job, but in order to be able to show it nicely enough on the video and to be working at a better height, I thought it was worth putting my bike up on the stand. So the first thing I'm going to do, and if you've seen any of my seat videos or the rack videos or anything else, you'll have seen this a load of times, I'm just going to take off these 4 bolts Now the front two is what holds the seat on, the back two hold that rear plastic. I don't need to remove the rear plastic, but I do need to get the bolts out in order to replace it with the bolts that come with the frame. I'm not going to talk through this, I'm just going to do it really super fast. When you take those out, make sure you don't lose the spacers that go in the holes. There we go, so that's the rear plastic off and the seat off. So now we're going to remove this side panel. So like I said, it's just the bolt out of there and the pin out of here, and then we should be good to go. That's ready to go back in again when I'm reassembling. There's the other one. I'm now going to remove the toolbox. It wasn't what this video was specifically for, but as it's in here, I might as well show you. So there's 3 screws. There's one at the top here, there's one in here, and there is one down there. It does feel like there's one more. Oh, I think there's one more from the underside, yeah. Yeah, there's one more just underneath here, so I'll just move the camera down to show you that. And if you can see that from under there well enough, but it's basically the screw is up underneath here. Where's it gone? There it is. So yeah, it's 4 screws, and then the toolbox just comes off. I know some people have been removing the toolbox anyway because they carry their tools in a different way. There we go. So the next thing I need to do is to remove the pillion peg, and this is just on a split pin around the back side. There you go. If we can just get that straightened up. Probably can't see that very well, but it's basically this pin that goes through has a split pin that goes in the end. It's a similar sort of thing that there is on the foot pegs. That should be on. That should just pull out. Nope, not quite yet. That comes off. Then there's a washer, and the pin pushes out. Great. I'm going to have to remove the battery to get that off, I think, or at least the bottom of the battery mount. That's annoying. Maybe I'm going to have to take that whole battery cradle out. That is a bit of a pain. Thanks, Honda. Maybe it's just that bolt in there, because I think that is just for that one. I think there is still one more bolt somewhere under there that I need to get to in order to free that up enough to move it. I was hoping I didn't have to take the battery out, but maybe I do. That's not ideal, is it? That is not going to come out unless I can move that in or up anymore. To be honest, it's not the best design, is it? Next thing I'm trying is, even to get the battery out, this bit of the fairing is in the way. Now remember, this is actually just velcroed on, but it does make you wince when you pull it away. There we go. Let me bring the battery out. And yes, I know I probably should have disconnected that first. I'll disconnect it. I think there's one more under here. Maybe that's the one. Ah, there we go. That's coming loose now. This is proving to be a much bigger job than I planned. So whoever made this at Honda, really, you could have put a little insert in the battery box there. That would have just helped with getting this out. It really would have done. What I can't see is how far short I am. Quite a long way, I guess. It's got to be that long. Yeah. So I do need to work out how to get this battery box off, which feels like it's anchored up somewhere under there, which is a real pain in the backside. I can see one more just at the back there. This one looks like it'd be the sort of bolt it'd be really painful to get back in again if you did get it on. So what I might do is just try and loosen it and see if that gives me enough movement to get the battery box out of the way. Okay, we've got a bit of movement there. Is that enough? Feels like it's so close, you know, but not close enough. So yeah, I think this one has to come out as well. Just hoping I can get it back in. No, that still won't come out. So I think this must still be attached somewhere. I'm just looking to see if I can see where the last anchor point is that is preventing me from taking this out. I mean, it feels quite loose. It feels like there's a hook on somewhere in there. Okay, so I found it. So there is one more behind here. So if that pulls up, I'm hoping that I can just get into that. Okay, so now that is free. Hopefully I can get it clear enough to pull that pin out. Okay, so now this catches on that bracket. So this really is a mission. I know some people have already taken their pillion pegs off. I'd be delighted to know if they had all this strife or if it's just me. There we go. That can come out. Hey, now getting that off was a real pain in the backside. So yeah, I'm sure that not everyone is going to make as much of a meal of it as I did just then, but just bear in mind that to get this left side pillion peg off really is a pain. Right then, now to put all this back together again. This is where now getting this back in is just as tricky as it was getting it out. I think the trick is getting it over this bottom bit down here. In the end, I actually had to take all of this wiring out of here, and now hopefully this should be a lot easier to put back together again now that all of that is out. Yep, it's that same bit where it just gets stuck. So there we go, that's all of that back where it should be. Yeah, that's a lot of work to get that left pillion peg off. On the plus side, once you've got all that wiring out of the way, it is a lot easier to see these places where the battery box remounts to. So I think I said there's 4 bolts. There's actually 5. I do have a 5th one. Now then, before I put all that back on, I'm just going to check to see where the pannier frame fits. Okay, it does fit underneath, so I'm wondering whether I need to put the bolts through first. Actually, it'll be more user-friendly on the road if I put it in from underneath, so I'll stick with it how it is. There we go, well that was a complete mission, but at least I've got the peg off and I've got the battery box back in. The next thing I'm just going to do is show you just how all this went back on, because I think that's, well, if you see it from this angle, it's probably not so bad. So basically this bit, this rubber bushing for this relay goes over the top of there. That's the positive battery connector. but this blue mounting goes back into that hole. So I'll pop that back in there. And then this relay here, which I don't know if you can quite see that. Turn the camera down a bit. And then this relay here has got a rubber bit which pushes back on to that rubber tab. So I'll push that back in there. That's going to come through there for the battery. And then that is just going to clip back on there. There we go. This cable clip actually needs to go and hold all of these in through there. Okay, so the last bit I need to do before I can actually go and fit the pannier rack is to put this rather large and heavy battery back in. At some point I am going to replace it with a lithium battery, but it seemed a bit of a waste to throw away a perfectly good standard battery, so I'm going to have to wait until that runs out before I can buy a new one. Oh yeah, stupid place for that. You can't even get to the battery lugs with that bit of bodywork in place, and that's quite a big piece to take off as well. Thanks, Honda. What's next? This is the battery cover. So I guess that isn't where that tie wrap runs through. I thought the tie wrap ran through the slit in the top of the battery box, but actually that's the hole that the battery retaining bracket needs to go onto. So I'll take that off, pull it out, and just thread it around another way. Okay, right, getting close now. Okay, getting close. I'm going to leave the rest of the bodywork there for now because I'm actually going to mount the pannier bracket on this side and then I'll refit the bodywork. So just looking at this, I think I do still need to use the spacers that were in there before, and actually I think I do need to refit that side panel because this is going to fit on top of the side panel. So this bit should in theory be easier to put back on. And then the little push rivet goes back into the hole there. And there's just a couple of these hex bolts to put on. And then there's the one more that goes in there. Now I've pushed that Velcro back on. So now I think I can fit this, this frame. So just to show you the sequence that I'm putting this through. It's going to go bolt, then a washer, then the pannier frame, then a spacer, and then the original spacer that came on the bike. Put that through there, then the spacer, and the spacer that came on the bike. Yeah, that's given me just enough. Also helps when the plastic is the right way around. There we go. For the next one, same thing again. Bolt, washer, spacer, spacer, and then that should all go together. Okay, before I tighten it up, I'm going to put this lower one in as well. So if you can see that, so that actually came assembled. So it's a bolt with two washers and a nut. Now I'm going to put this in from the underneath because I kind of feel like that is the only way it will go reliably. There we go. Hindsight, maybe putting that side panel on after you put these in is the way to go. Let's see if I can drop this somewhere into the bike. So that is kind of it for that side. Obviously I need to put the rear rail on, but what I think I'll do is I will do the other side, put the rear rail on, and then tighten everything up. So on this side, I also need to remove the pillion peg. Thankfully, there's no battery box here, so this side looks like, comparatively, it will be very straightforward. Let's see if that's actually the case. There we go. Compared to the other side, that is an absolute doddle. So what I've learned from the other side is I'm actually going to put the bolt through there first, just because it makes it a little bit easier when you're assembling it. That side was so easy compared to the other side. Right then, pannier frame. So for this side, it's exactly the same with the bolts. That's going to fit in there and around the pillion peg. I'm not going to show you how the bolts go together. It's exactly the same as the other side. Okay, so that is pretty much all in. It's going to tighten up now. So that is all on there. That is all actually really solid, the other side as well. So I just need to put the rear piece on now. And when I put this in, I'm going to put this longer piece on the outside. Just going to do the other side, then I'll tighten it all up. And that is it. So actually, the very last thing for me to do now is to put the other panel back. So a couple more things to do. I'm just going to refit this side panel, then I'm going to have to take these bolts off to put the seat back on. And then I think I'm done. This really is such a snug fit, and I don't mean snug like too snug, but it's just so perfectly machined that it's actually, oh there we go, you do need to take a bit of the pressure off at the back there. So what you probably didn't notice just then was that as I was finishing assembling the bike, it appears the battery in my radio mic died, so I had no audio for the end bit, so I missed my conclusion. So I'm back in the garage a couple of days later just to reshoot the last bit. So pick up exactly where I left off. Everything went back on, everything's bolted back in place. What I will do is I'll just give you a very quick close-up look at the installed pannier racks, because they are really, really solid. So hopefully you can see that okay. So they really are, you know, extremely solid. There's no movement in there at all. I thought there might be some lateral movement, maybe even with the length of the standoffs up here, that there'd be something in there. But no, it is extremely solid. I'm really quite impressed with that. And with these 4 anchor points, so down on the pillion pegs, the 2 up here, plus this side brace off the back, all in the 18mm tube, does feel really, really solid. If I was going to be really critical, the only bit that doesn't look quite as polished as the rest of it is these aluminium spacers. And the 4 of these, they've just been left in unfinished aluminium, which I'm sure is fine. Everything else is black, so they could have been anodized black. Would have looked a little bit nicer, but that is a very, very tiny thing. And honestly, who really cares what color the spacers are? The rack itself really is just so solid on the bike. So the next thing I need to do is to try it out on with my Enduristan panniers. So the very last thing I'm going to do before I finish is just show you how the Enduristan Monsoon Evo Panniers fits to the new racks. So if you saw my other video on this, you saw that I had a bit of trouble getting these locks around the bars in the first place. I saw the guys from Enduristan the other day and asked them about it, and they said actually, I don't know if you can quite see on the camera, but on each of these there's actually 4 little nylock nuts, and on the inside of this there is an Allen bolt that goes through, and by undoing that half a turn or 3/4 of a turn, it actually loosens off these whole brackets a little bit. And they've done that on purpose for the different thicknesses of powder coating that comes on 18mm pannier frames. So now I've had these done, I'm hoping that this is going to be a lot easier to just clip on and off the rack. So the way this fits on, the bottom bit of these fittings just fits straight over the bar, and that's it. So that just locks over like that. Pull the 2 locks down like that, and then the straps at the side just fix around the bars like that. That's it, that is done, and that is on there really solidly. That's not going anywhere. The last thing I'm going to do is just pop the 2 locks in. There we go. This is the smaller one that fits on this side to go around the exhaust. Exactly the same thing. Just hooks on, pull the two catches down. There we go. And then straps. And there you go. That is both panniers on the back of the bike. So a few people asked to see what the panniers look like on the bike, how big they are. So just to give you a bit of a look, this is the side-on view. If I try and lift that up a bit, you can hopefully see them as I come around the back here. And then I'll give you a view from the front. So that one you can see along the back there. That is the biggest one of the pair. And maybe if I just give you one last view, looking down from the top. So there you have it. That is my video on how to fit the Outback Motortek pannier frames to a Honda CRF300 Rally, and then also fit the Enduristan Monsoon Evo panniers to them. The fitting of the panniers is really straightforward. I mean, like really straightforward. The very difficult bit is getting that left side rear pillion peg off, because you have to remove the battery box and everything that goes with it. And taking the toolbox off was pretty easy. It was just those screws and the whole thing came away. I'm going to leave these on for now. I do think they look all right. They certainly go very well with the panniers. They're not the perfect solution if you're doing a lot of trail riding, and I think the blizzards are a much better answer if that's the case. Anyway, I hope this has been interesting and useful. If it has, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.